Boomer, thank you so much for joining the podcast today, taking the time out of what I know is a very busy schedule for you.
Erin, it's great to see you. Thanks for having me on. How can I fix the Saints today?
I don't know. I'm hoping that you can help me for sure. You were on the halftime show for our game this past weekend in Nashville. It was a 23-21 loss for the Saints. I heard some of your comments at the half. Well, after it was all said and done, kind of what were your takeaways there?
I feel like they got screwed again. Most fans watching games can understand when their team loses, and maybe it's a great play by an opposing quarterback or defensive back makes an interception, or there's a run back of some sort, or maybe your own coach just blows it by, trying to run it 4 times from the 1 yard line and can't get it into the end zone. But what we don't like as broadcasters and fans is when we feel like our team is getting jobbed. And what I mean by that is a bad call. Now, I've played in 186 NFL games, so I've seen a few bad calls affect my games, both outcomes, win and lose. But I don't know. I go back to the Rams-Saints NFC Championship game and thinking that the Saints should have been in the Super Bowl against the Patriots as opposed to the Rams. And then I see what happened on Sunday. Now, I know it was in the first half and there's still a lot of football left to be played, but that was an interception. And interceptions are game-changing. They're momentum-changing. Anything can happen after an interception, especially one that's thrown in the end zone by the opposing quarterback. So I still can't explain what I saw there. And I will tell you this, that I know that there are a lot of coaches out there that agree with me. And I think a lot of fans would agree with me that we have to start replaying roughing the passer calls because they are game changers. And when those things happen the way that it did on Sunday, in the middle of a season with a team that, is right in the middle of, both teams are in the thick of the playoff run, it really begets very frustrating for all of us. And I just wanted to call it as I saw it. I have no dog in the fight, but I get paid to give an unbiased opinion. And that's exactly what I saw happen on Sunday.
I think a lot of people would agree with you. The roughing the passer call was not something that needed to be called at that point, negating that interception and just changing momentum for the game. Coach Payton said it was gut-wrenching. You never want to see a game go that way. So how do you shift momentum back in the right direction as they're heading into this game against the Eagles?
Well, I think in past years, they would be able to fall on the shoulders of Drew Brees. He was the ultimate team leader, the ultimate guy in the locker room that no matter how bad it got, he would weather the storm. And Sean would too. I mean, these were two guys that are Hall of Fame caliber type people at their respective positions. You put them together, you got such a strong tandem at the top. I mean, guys like Demario Davis have got to pick it up on the defense. And he has, by the way, he's played great. I mean, he's almost on every tackle. You see his number. It's all over the field. So it's guys like that you got to fall back on. And you got to hope that your top players are going to come back, that the Alvin Kamaras of the world and the Teron Armsteads of the world are going to be back on the field, because that will make whoever's playing quarterback, whether it be Trevor Siemian or Taysom Hill, make their job that much easier. And by the way, I know there's probably some discussion about who should be playing quarterback. I mean, if my backup quarterback is going to play the way Trevor Siemian has played the last 2 games, especially late in the game, then I'm good with that. I'm good with that. He's given me a chance to win. Everybody around him has got to raise their level. They got to stop dropping passes. They got to stop committing penalties. This is what's killing them. It's not really their quarterback, although he's gotten up to a couple of slow starts. But at the end of the day, a backup quarterback is an insurance policy. And if you ask me, my insurance policy, whether I got it from State Farm or Allstate, has worked out pretty well if you're Sean Payton, from the performance that I've seen thus far from Trevor Siemian.
Yeah, absolutely. He's got 5 touchdown passes, no interceptions, which I think is something that you really have to hang your hat on. He's managing the game well, making good decisions, maybe been sacked a few too many times, could be on the offensive line there, or some of the decision-making from him. But he has done a very good job. Going forward, what is it going to take for him to start games a little bit better, maybe get a little bit more comfortable?
It's most coaches start a game with a 15-play kind of script, and the quarterback is able to sleep on it, think about it, and kind of visualize about the way the game is going to start. And then sometimes those things go haywire depending on the way the game starts, where the field position is, what is happening at that point in the game. And, I'm sure he's a little bit nervous. Let's face it, he's not used to starting. As a matter of fact, he was here in New York. It was just awful for him. It was a really bad experience. But it just also goes to show you the great coach that Sean Payton is, that, he can win with Jameis Winston. He can win with Taysom Hill. He can win with Trevor Siemian. It didn't always have to be Drew Brees, although Drew made it a lot easier for everybody. I'm sure that the game plan is not 100% in. I'm sure that Sean is trying to put him in position where he can be healthy and he can be safe and he's not going to, put himself at risk. The other thing too is that his teammates can make some plays for him. I mean, don't drop the ball on third down. I mean, that's a way that you hold on to the ball. You have more shots, you have more chances. The penalties that have come in inopportune times, like last week on the 2-point play, you can't have a penalty on a 2-point play. You just can't. I mean, especially one that's going to tie the game and put it into overtime, most likely. So I would just say that he's playing fine. The players around him have got to pick it up. They've got to play better. McAllister was good last week, but he's not Alvin Kamara. Alvin Kamara just makes the whole field different for everybody that he's playing with, and could take a 2-yard pass, Erin, and turn it into a 20-yard gain or an 80-yard touchdown run. So when you get him back in the mix and he's healthy again, he's the difference maker, and that will help start the games off better, I'm sure, for the Saints.
Everybody's waiting to see what Alvin Kamara's status will be this week. It's definitely going to be somebody to watch because, as you said, he is an absolute game changer. You mentioned the drop passes, the penalties. It's what we've been saying for the past couple of weeks. It's got to fix the little things, but how do you do that? Because it's been a common theme here over the past few weeks.
Yeah, I smile, you smile, but I can tell you that the players and the coaches are not smiling inside. As Coach Payton said this week, it's gut-wrenching. And what's gut-wrenching are the unforced errors, the errors that you make, not because of what they're doing to you. And catching a pass, and maybe having it knocked away from you is one thing, but dropping a pass wide open for a first down or a touchdown is a completely different set of circumstances. So I think what you try to do is you try to send a message if you're a coach through the media a little bit. And sometimes you want to put people on notice. You want to bring guys that are not on the roster in on a Tuesday or Wednesday and parade them to the locker room. Let guys know that, maybe their job is not safe unless they pick up their play. It's all those kind of mind games that coaches play. But I think Sean's in a really delicate situation right now because, losing 2 in a row like this, as heartbreaking and as gut-wrenching as they were, he's also got to make sure that the rest of the team is still looking at the big picture, that they're very much in the mix here. And their next 3 games are like a murderer's row of teams that they got to play. And Philadelphia, even though it's got a losing record, I mean, they're just like the Saints. They're physical. They're intimidating. They want to run the ball. They want to play great defense. Jalen Hurts is running all over the place, making plays. So that's not going to be an easy thing for this defense. But then after that, you got Buffalo and Dallas on deck. Now, the coaches and the players don't look that way. We as fans and media do. So they have to win this football game this week. And then when you look at the back end of their schedule, the last 4 or 5 games within their own division, it's not going to be easy. But, this is like a Jekyll and Hyde team. And it's more of a reflection, I think, of the NFL in general at just how much parity there is. There are probably about 20 to 24 teams that are going to end up somewhere between 10-7 and 7-10. And then there's going to be the also-rans, and then they're going to be the ones that are led by Hall of Fame quarterbacks like Drew Brees, what used to lead the Saints. So they're right there in the pack, but they got to win this game against Philadelphia.
You mentioned the NFL in general has been very crazy this year. There have been a lot of teams that we didn't think would be losing that are losing. And the last time that there were teams that had 2 losses, every single team had at least 2 losses in the NFL through week 11 was 2010. So this isn't something that happens very often. Usually there are those teams that are the front runners. Who do you think is going to be the teams that are left at the end of this?
Well, when I look at right now, I mean, there's no question that Green Bay is probably the best balanced team in the league. I mean, just when Aaron Rodgers came back, and he was a little bit off this week, they still won and they shut out Russell Wilson for the first time in 166 games for Russell. So that tells you all you need to know about Green Bay, that they do have a very good defense. And then they play complementary football along with Aaron Rodgers. So I think they're unquestionably right now, at least we sit here, that they are the best team in the NFC. Over in the AFC, a little bit more wide open. You guys just saw Tennessee. They're a good team. They're not a great team. Buffalo flexed its muscle against maybe the worst team in the AFC, and that's the Jets. So I really don't know where they are totally, because we'll find out a little bit more about them this week. They play Indianapolis, and I'm sure Indianapolis and Buffalo will be a much closer game. So the AFC wide open, but in the NFC, I think the clear leader of the pack, for me at least right now, is the Green Bay Packers.
All right, looking at the Saints' next matchup, we've talked a little bit about the Eagles and where they're at. They've definitely changed their game plan, much more run heavy, and then they're going to the option after that. with the Saints being the number one rushing defense in the NFL right now, how do you think this matchup is going to play out?
I think it's an advantage Saints. They usually play good against teams that try to run the ball, but the key here is corralling Jalen Hurts. He's not the most accurate of passers. I wouldn't call him a top-tier quarterback in the league. I think what he is a top-tier competitor. That's what I really think he is. I think there are a lot of people that question whether or not he can be the long-term solution in Philadelphia, and he plays with the chip on the shoulder that you have to play with. And when you watch him play, there's a lot of off script plays that he's making. And, DeMario and the guys are just going to have to say, hey, look, man, we got to keep this guy in between the tackles somehow and try to do what maybe the Bengals or the Dolphins did to Lamar Jackson when they played the Ravens. Lamar was never able to get outside and make those off script plays that are so wow oriented and they turn into big plays. And so Jalen Hurts is kind of like that. He's not nearly as good as Lamar, but he's that kind of athlete. He's that kind of quarterback. So that's first and foremost. And, you want to force him to his left. He throws really well running to his right. He throws okay to his left, but he also runs effectively to his right. So I think game plan wise defensively is try to force him to his left if you can. And if he is going to get out of the pocket, make him run left. If not, you got to try to keep him in the pocket. And look, no quarterback likes to get hit. I don't care who you are. And he's not the biggest of guys. So when you get back there, you got to do it legally, by the way, as we found out last week. And you got to leave a mark, and you got to make sure that he knows you're coming 20, for the entire game, all 4 quarters.
Because of the way that this game went last season, the Saints were on a 9-game win streak. They lose 24-21 in Jalen Hurts' first career start with the Eagles. It was a very unique game in the fact that they ran for almost 250 yards on the Saints, and Hurts had over 100 yards passing, 100 yards on the ground. Does that add any more incentive to a player to come in as the Saints coming into Philadelphia and try to get redemption for that game?
Yeah, there's no question, but they also now know who they're playing against. Last year they had really no idea what they were going to see or what it was going to look like or how fast he was and really what his tendencies were. So now you have a bunch of tape on him. You have all his tendencies. You know what he's good at. You know where he struggles. The one thing I will say about Jalen that I really do like is that when he does break the pocket, it's not like he's going to make a mistake. I mean, he's more apt to run with it than try to force something unless it's late in the game and he has to. So he's competitive. He's smart. He doesn't panic, which is a big thing for young quarterbacks. A lot of young quarterbacks, panic in their first or second year, especially one in Philadelphia. Philadelphia is a nuts place to play. And there's people coming down on him all the time. And I think that kind of fuels that chip on his shoulder. But it will help the Saints defense knowing what he looked like from playing against him last year. So that's why I was telling you from a defensive perspective, it's going to be really, really important to try to bottle that up. I mean, if he has over 50 yards rushing, that means he's converting third downs. That means he's creating those off, script plays. And those are the things that really drive you crazy if you're a defensive coordinator. It's really frustrating playing a guy like this because the athleticism sometimes really puts the onus and the pressure on your defensive line and linebackers. But I think the Saints should be up for it this week.
It'll be interesting to see how it shakes out, especially in the trenches with the way that they are both running and stopping the run. You mentioned how nuts it is to play in Philly. Where is the most ridiculous place that you played at?
Well, I played at the Bermuda Triangle of the NFL. That would be the Cardinals, Bengals, and Jets, Aaron, back when I played. I don't even think you were born when I was playing. But, I would say that playing in New York is difficult. They've swallowed up a number of quarterbacks here, especially young quarterbacks. Philadelphia is certainly not easy. I think there's expectations all across the league. I think fans are passionate about their team. I know they're passionate about their team down in New Orleans and Buffalo and Green Bay, small market teams. They have rabid fan bases. I mean, look at what Aaron Rodgers just went through over the last 2 weeks, with all the COVID nonsense. So I think wherever you play these days is going to be pressure packed. It's just that sometimes when you play in a bigger city like Philadelphia or New York, you could be out, you could be going doing your grocery shopping, picking up your cleaning, whatever it may be. And fans are not afraid to come up to you and tell you, hey, man, you know what? Your team sucks and you suck. So you just got to kind of get used to that. And now with the advent of social media, fans can get to these players a lot quicker than they used to be able to when I was playing. So I would always advise these guys today, turn off the media mentions. Do not listen to what people are saying to you.
Yeah, I mean, I get a little bit of it, and I'm not even the one that's playing. I'm just talking about the team. I can't catch passes. I'm sorry, I can't do it for you guys.
That's exactly right. I tell them all the
Yeah.
time. I just have an opinion, man. I'm like everybody else out there. So hopefully the Saints fans appreciated my opinion this weekend.
Absolutely. You've done so much since your playing careers. I saw you co-hosted Miss America. You do the Kitten Bowl.
Yes.
What's the favorite thing that you've done?
Wow, Miss America was great. I really enjoyed that. That was back in, I think, 1998 or 1999. The Kitten Bowl I've done like the last 6 or 7 years with Beth Ostrovsky. She's Howard Stern's wife, and she's big for the North Shore Animal League USA here in New York. I really enjoyed the greatest Super Bowl commercial show that I've done over the last 8 years. I've co-hosted that with Daniela Rua now the last 4 or 5 years, and she's on NCIS LA. So I love that show. It's just kind of a little bit different. It's, you're in prime time. It has something to do with sports, but it's more of a variety type show. So I kind of like that stuff. And of course, Erin, you and I work together on Game Time, and that may be the best show of all time.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I'm glad I got to meet you on that show. I have to ask you before I let you go, how's your hockey game?
Hey, well, I appreciate you asking me that. It's very good. As a matter of fact, I'm all ramped up now, playing about 3 times a week, getting the competitive juices flowing. Certainly love it. And plus, I have a son-in-law who plays in the NHL, who plays for the rival team that I root for. So I root for the New York Rangers. He plays for the Islanders. And we have an Islander Ranger game the Wednesday night before Thanksgiving. So I'm going to have to deal with my daughter during that game because now all of a sudden she's a turncoat and an Islander fan, and I can understand why. So hockey's a big part in our family here, and this is hockey season. So I love it as much as I do football.
Well, I appreciate you coming on the podcast today and talking some football with me.
All right. Anytime, Erin. Good luck the rest of the way.